Hello friends, it's me, and today let's watch Film Theory. What if Gru actually stole the moon from the film theorists? Together, let's go. Let's start. Thank you.
Gru and the minions would have destroyed the world. Yeah, that little plot from Despicable Me. If you tried this in real life, it wouldn't be cute or wholesome. It would be a crime so bad it would literally end life on this planet. How?
We are going to steal the moon!
Film Theory.
Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that has diabolical plans to rule the world.
Hello Internet, welcome to Film Theory.
The first step in that evil plan? Subscribing to Film Theory.
Subscribe!
Could you help me out there? Yeah, cool. Thanks, man. Listen.
Thank you so much. Subscribe. Thank you.
I know that you know the minions. These dudes changed movies forever whether we like it or not, and everyone knows about them. Whether you be a little kid who was genuinely excited for the new movies, someone who grew up with the franchise and gentle minioned with the boys, or a parent who sat through the movies with your kids only to find something that you actually enjoyed and later made Facebook posts with. Fun fact, one of my aunts actually has a minion noise as her text notification because of that, so anyway, there's a reason that these movies are so popular. Is it because the minions were basically genetically engineered in a lab to be appealing to children and sell merchandise? I mean, yeah, but also, the story for that very first Despicable Me movie was a lot of fun. It was both simple enough to be a really catchy hook for the film, while also providing enough actual character motivation to get the story to a satisfying place. If you don't remember, Gru, who longs to be a great supervillain, does what no other man has done before. He steals the moon, all just to one-up another up-and-comer named Vector. But how does he do it? Well,
The rest of the plan is simple. I fly to the moon. I shrink the moon. I grab the moon. I sit on the toilet. What?
okay, well, scratch that last step and good plan. Gru creates some technology that shrinks the moon so we can steal it and bring it back to Earth. Seems pretty simple, right? What could possibly go wrong? Well,
Don't say that! It is famous last words. It's a red flag. What could possibly go wrong? Don't say that.
as it turns out, everything could go wrong. Yeah, honestly, everything about this plan is a big, bad, terrible idea. Like, would this actually even be a crime? If Gru wants to become the best supervillain, you would think that he'd actually want to do something villainous like breaking the law. And secondly, the science behind this is insane. And would it potentially doom the planet? I need answers. So today,
To be fair, he did break the law of physics.
hey, I want to do two things here, loyal theorists. First, I want to find out, would stealing the moon actually even be a crime? Would this actually be something Gru could do as a big villainous move? Or is this just another weird thing a guy with tons of time, resources, and minions can do with no repercussions? And two, should it be a crime? If Gru actually stole the moon like we saw in the movie, shrinking it down and bringing it to the planet, what would the fallout be here on Earth? Yeah, this one's a film theory classic, so grab your overalls and put on your goggles, loyal theorists. We're shooting for the moon on this one. All right, so the first question I had when watching this is stealing the moon even a crime? Obviously, stealing is a crime, but whose jurisdiction is in space? It's like international waters, but with rockets, right? Well, no, that's not actually true. Believe it or not, but this sort of thing has come up before, and space laws fall under something that is known as the Outer Space Treaty, which was signed by 113 countries, including the United States. We actually talked about this in our theory about which evil X from Scott Pilgrim is the evilest, but this spells out that space and all of the other planets and moons and asteroids and stuff are, quote, the province of all humankind. So yeah, stealing the moon would absolutely break this treaty. First of all, the Outer Space Treaty says that everything done in space must be carried out for the benefit and interest of all countries. Gru's reasons for taking the moon are just to beat a fellow supervillain named Vector and prove that he's the superior bad guy. This isn't benefiting all people or all countries, it's only benefiting Gru, so strike one. Second, by
It
stealing
is super selfish. To be fair, villain-like, which he was.
the moon, Gru is claiming ownership over it. This goes directly against Article 2 of the treaty, which states that the moon is, quote, not subject to national appropriation by claim of sovereignty, by means of use or occupation, or by any other means. So, strike two. And finally, while we know that Gru is just trying to steal the moon to flex on Vector, that's not how the rest of the world's going to see it. They'll have no idea what's going on. Gru might try to ransom it, or destroy the moon, or sell it to the highest bidder. Regardless of what they think will happen, Gru's actions violate violate Article 4, which states that all celestial bodies must be used for peaceful purposes. Strike 3, you're out, Gru. Now, some of you are probably really smart and thinking, hey, doesn't this treaty only apply to nations, not individuals like Gru? And I actually had the same thought, so great catch. You guys are truly theorists. But thankfully, we aren't the only people who have thought about this. See, back in the 80s, a man named Dennis Hope saw this same loophole and created the Lunar Embassy, and he started selling plots of land on the moon for profit because of it. Man, people really suck sometimes. Well, when the president of the International Institute of Space Law, a real thing that actually exists, discovered this, he clarified that Mr. Hope was wrong and the treaty did also apply to individuals. But what would actually happen to Gru? What charges would be brought up and who would he answer to? Well, it's unclear. Like, the Outer Space Treaty doesn't have an obvious system for charging private individuals if they break it. Most likely, under Article 4, it would be Gru's home country that would be responsible for Gru's actions, which means
Case in point, how are they going to enforce the laws? How are they going to punish the individuals involved?
that the US would suddenly have to answer to the world why some random dude from the Albuquerque suburbs has kidnapped the moon. But of course, because this is such an insane situation, no one's ever really been charged with crimes like this. Even Dennis Hope was more or less given a slap on the wrist instead of a real prison sentence. At the very least though, I expect Gru would be prosecuted under US federal laws, including unauthorized space activity, theft, and conversion of government property. But honestly, any criminal punishment would be the least of Gru's problems in this situation. Because, given what we see in the movie, there probably wouldn't be anyone left to actually charge him with a crime. In the actual movie, when Gru shrinks the moon, it's like all of a sudden its gravity just disappears. But that just wouldn't happen. It's physically impossible for that to happen, actually. See, mass can't be created or destroyed.
Hey, Newton's law!
It can be converted into energy, but that's not what we see happen here. If that were to happen, we'd basically see like a giant explosion or something. No, how much mass something has actually has nothing to do with how big it is. That's why something that's made of metal that's small can be heavier than a balloon that's much bigger. It's got more mass, it's more dense. We actually covered this ages ago in a theory about how Ant-Man is actually Marvel's deadliest hero. Fun fact, Baby Lee wrote that script way back in the day. Man, how much I've grown. Anyway, the thing that we learned from that episode was that when we see things shrink, like here in Despicable Me, it's more like its atoms are getting closer together than them actually getting smaller. All of the mass from the moon is still there, just shrunken down to the size of what looks like a softball before it's brought back to Earth. The moon has a mass of about this much. I don't really want to read that out loud, numbers are hard, which is just about 1.2% of the mass of Earth. So again, just to lay this out and make it super clear, Gru is more or less bringing the moon, the entire moon, back to Earth just in a travel-sized package. Now, there would be some obvious consequences here. Like, for example, if the Earth and moon were this close together, they would just crash into each other, which would be bad. In fact, running the numbers through the gravitational potential energy formula, the energy created by such a collision would be this insane number. That's more energy than the meteor impact that wiped out the dinosaur and basically resulted in life on Earth just completely ending. Fun fact, this would basically be like recreating the giant impact hypothesis. This is the suggestion that a Mars-sized planet collided with Earth when the solar system was really, really young. And that's what caused the moon to be created in the first place. But even if we didn't take any of this into account, if somehow the moon and the Earth weren't just instantly face-planting into one another, some weird stuff would be going down. Most of you probably know that the moon is the reason we have tides. That the gravity of the moon pulls the water on the planet towards it ever so slightly, making the tide go in and out on our beaches and rivers. So, what would happen if you brought the mass of the moon closer to Earth? Well, all of the Earth's water is going to be attracted to it way more. The tides would be much larger, much quicker, and much stronger. Almost like a big tidal wave getting pulled towards the moon, which would cause massive damage and potential loss of life. But here's the thing. Water isn't the only thing that has tides. See, the moon is also responsible for something called terrestrial tide. Basically, just like water, the gravitational pull of the moon also causes the Earth's crust to rise and fall up to 21 inches or 55 centimeters every day. When that's spread out across a big area like the entire Earth, that's not actually that much. But remember, that's because the moon is so far away. If it were much closer, the terrestrial tide would also be much stronger, concentrated on a much smaller spot. The crust beneath and around the shrunken moon would be pulled upward with it with some seriously powerful forces, causing fractures, earthquakes, and fissures. On top of that, the moon's gravity also helps keep the Earth's rotation consistent. It actually slows slows down how fast the Earth spins thanks to something called tidal braking. Without the moon exactly where it is, days would become shorter and more chaotic. Or, if we take into account that all of that mass is actually much closer, the days may cease entirely. Honestly, it's hard to predict because something like this just hasn't really happened to us before. The moon is also responsible for the Earth tilting on its axis, and changing its position would result in our axis getting all out of whack. And that would create unstable seasons and extreme weather conditions, potentially leading to an ice age. Now, all of that would make for a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, but that isn't actually—
Yeah, I think that pretty much sums up this entire episode from the Film Terrorists. Let's listen to it one more time, okay?
seasons and extreme weather conditions, potentially leading to an ice age. Now, all of that would make for a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad day, but that—
Yep, terrible, horrible, no good, bad day, super duper bad day.
isn't actually the worst of it, or the most interesting in my opinion. And to talk about the worst of it, we need to talk about something else related to gravity: surface gravity. Surface gravity is how strong the pull of gravity is on the surface of an object, and this is dictated by a couple of things. Most importantly, how massive the object is and how large that object is. So let's give an example here. I won't bore you with the math or the equations, but Earth has a surface gravity of 9.8 meters per second squared. That is how
9.81.
strong the pull of gravity feels based on how much stuff is in the Earth and how big it is. The moon, at its normal size, has a surface gravity of 1.62 meters per second squared. That's about a sixth of what the Earth is. This is why all the videos you see of astronauts on the moon look like they weigh less. They basically did. But if you were to shrink—
recognize that when they're jumping and they're carrying like, I don't know, 50 kg backpacks, super heavy.
all of the moon's mass into that area the size of a softball, despite having less mass than Earth, its surface gravity would be insanely high. If you plug the numbers into that equation from earlier, the surface gravity of this super dense softball moon would be this crazy number. I know this probably means nothing to you, but that's roughly 1.3 trillion times stronger than the moon's usual surface gravity. Now, honestly, we're getting to the point where these numbers are getting so big that they're basically meaningless. But if you brought that back to Earth, I cannot begin to tell you how catastrophic that would be. That much surface gravity would overwhelm the Earth's local gravity, and before the Earth and the softball moon crashed into each other, everything within the nearby area, maybe even miles away, like rocks or people or cars or even the air, all of it would be pulled in towards this itty-bitty moon. I actually did wonder if something so dense and so small would become a black hole, but according to NASA, the moon would have to be the size of a grain of sand to do that. Regardless, this would still be crazy and destroy the world. All because Gru just wanted to beat Vector. Not the best
So it is super explosions, but it's not black hole level yet.
evil plan if you want to, you know, survive. Now, all that being said, I want to give Gru some credit here for stealing the moon. Like, truly, I do. I respect how far he went just to be petty against his new arch nemesis. This is like a Kendrick Lamar diss track level of hate. So let's play a little bit of an imagination game here. It doesn't really seem like Gru has any ulterior motive for stealing the moon in the movie, but what if he did? What if, somehow, Gru defies the laws of physics, doesn't kill himself or destroy the world, and just has the moon? What could he do with it next? What's the play? Well, one thing he may try to do, or at least where my mind went, well, he could try to extract some valuable materials from the moon to sell it. See, the moon contains a lot of valuable minerals and elements that we use in our everyday life for a ton of goods and products. Stuff like platinum, iron, and titanium. These materials are currently relatively expensive to get a hold of, mostly due to their rarity, with some mining businesses spending between 1 and 3 years exploring to even find deposits underground. And that's before they even get to the materials, get them out of the ground, and process them into a state where they can be sold. Though it's unlikely that the Earth would ever completely run out of these sorts of minerals, there is a possible future where actually finding and getting to those materials is just either way too expensive or too destructive that we just don't do it. This is actually why a lot of companies today are looking really far ahead and thinking about ways to mine these materials from asteroids, where you don't need to worry about little things like the environment or destroying someone's home or whatever. In fact, it's projected that because of this, asteroid mining could potentially be a $1 trillion industry. Oh my gosh.
Nope. It's not $1 trillion industry. It is a multi-trillion dollar industry.
gosh, that is so much money. So, on the surface, the idea of Gru getting his hands on something like the 66 million pounds of platinum in the moon means that he could probably make a pretty penny extracting it and selling it off. But this would run into another big risk. See, if he ended up selling a lot of that could
It
actually
will flood the market and cause the crash. A huge bubble.
upend the entire economy. This would happen because of something called supply and demand. You've probably heard about this in your social studies classes or economics. Basically, this is an economic principle that says that the price of something is determined by two things. One, how much people want it, and two, how much of it there is. This is the case for pretty much everything on the market, from food to clothes to cars to the services of a plumber. If there's a lot of food, well, then you won't be able to sell it for a lot. The demand for it goes down because the supply is so high. But if all of a sudden you don't have much food, the demand goes up, and because the supply is down, you can charge more for it. And while a lot of the materials on the moon, like carbon and iron, are pretty common here on Earth, others like platinum aren't, and that would have a big impact on the world economy. Scientists estimate that there's about 150 million pounds of platinum on Earth, though only about 22 million pounds of it has been mined. That might sound like it's a lot, but it's really not. If you melted all of that down and poured it into an Olympic-sized swimming pool, it would only fill it to ankle depth. So if Gru were to add even just a percentage of that 66 million pounds of the moon's platinum into the equation, the value of that platinum would plummet. Sure, he might get a bit of a payout at first, or if he's very carefully controlling how much he's selling, but if he oversupplies it at all, that would destabilize the price and destroy the countries and companies that rely on mining it to support their citizens and employees. So whether it be from a legal perspective, the risk of destroying the world, or tanking the world economy, Gru stealing the moon is just an all-around terrible idea and would leave huge portions of the world in shambles or in complete ruin. Yeah, turns out that the plot from this cartoon movie with talking Tic Tacs just might have been a bit dumb, huh? But hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut. Up next on Film Theory, the minions aren't dumb.
Well, but hey, that's just a theory. A film theory. And cut! Thank you so much for watching this episode together with me from the Film Theorist. It is eye-opening, to be honest with you. It is crazy, stupid, but kind of educational. So entertainment, educational, entertainment. Awesome. Thank you so much. Subscribe.